Hi, my name is Ray Paik. I'm a code contributor program manager at GitLab. And this is a pre-recording for the group conversation call for the community relations team on July 23rd. We look forward to your questions and conversations tomorrow. But just wanted to highlight a few things to, hopefully encourage or spur conversations. I just want to go over like a few slides. I'll start with slide 4 that lists highlights and lowlights since our last group conversation. In terms of highlights, we excited to have a lot of them. There's continued growth in the open source program and open source partners. In particular, Wikimedia and VLC are moving to GitLab, which we're very excited about. And many of you may be familiar with GitLab TV MVC1. It was exciting to have the community channel to be a part of it. You can click on that link to view the playlist there. And also for 13.1, for the first time, we had more than 300 MRs from the wider community that were merged. So that was really exciting. You can also take a look at the tracking that the advocates are starting to do on expert involvement on a weekly basis. And I think there's a slide further down in the presentation in the community advocate section that you can take a look at. And there's also a handbook page for release date procedures. So you can find out more details about kind of activities and processes that our community advocates are following. And a couple of things related to the forums, which we'll talk about in a minute. A couple of exciting, interesting contests. And then there's also a new category for GitLab for Education specifically for education institutions that are also moving to GitLab as well. In terms of lowlights, a few things here. After the high for the 13.1 release, unfortunately we've seen a drop in inbound community MRs in the second half of June, but I think this is mostly due to, we typically experience a lull in the summer periods, like in June and July timeframe. That's been pretty consistent over the past few years, but something we'll keep an eye on. Swag or merchandise is, it requires a lot of manual work and intervention from our community advocates team, but obviously that's still taking up a lot of bandwidth. Related to bandwidth, the live learning session for the expert involvement is on hold. Hopefully they'll resume soon. And lastly, obviously this doesn't impact just our meetups, but due to COVID-19, there's a huge impact on events in general, but that's obviously impacting the GitLab meetups. So next, I'll move on to slides 5 and 6 for a couple of discussion topics that hopefully we'll get some feedback on during or even prior to the call. One is on chat and messaging platform. What we've been noticing over the past few years in the GitLab community, the team members and wider community members are essentially on different silos. I mean, the GitLab team members, as you well know, like they're spending most of the time on Slack, which is private, and the wider community members like heroes and code contributors are on the Gitter channel that's in public. So it obviously creates a silo. And the core team members that are from the wider community, after they sign an NDA, they are invited to GitLab Slack. But even a lot of the core team members are spending probably majority of the time on Slack rather than on Gitter. So there's even amongst like the wider community members, the Gitter doesn't seem to get the full attention, and so that's one of the issues that we recently talked to core team members about during the monthly meeting we had last week. And so this brings up a question, could a lot of our Slack conversations actually happen in public? And Meltano team has done this. There's a public workspace, meltano.slack.com. And having a lot of our conversations, not just for engineers, but I think even for community relations team, a lot of our Slack conversations, I don't think that'll be an issue if we were to have this in the public workspace. for example. And obviously, we'll also expand the reach, not just to the core team members, but other wider community members as well. So it'll be another benefit if we were to have, for example, a public workspace for GitLab. You'll see a couple of relevant issues here, but I welcome your questions and feedback. The other thing I wanted to point out was, we talked about this earlier on GitLab Forum. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is the forum is based on Discourse as a platform. If you go to forum.gitlab.com, you'll see a lot of discussions and topics that are there. And the top part of the chart shows the metrics. This comes as part of the Discourse platform. So you see the metrics over the last month or so on signups, topics, and posts. And you know, forum's been used, I mean, for especially people that are on the free tier in the community. This is where people come to ask technical questions about, you know, using GitLab, or if they get stuck on something. So this is where a lot of community members can help each other out. But beyond that, not just as a, you know, we want to go beyond this just being a support channel, so people can make connections and get information and stay up to date. I mean, for example, if you're a .NET developer using GitLab, I mean, it might be interesting for those people to get together and also know each other, and also use this as a forum for, you know, recognition, and the team members to interact with the wider community members. We got several links here, starting from like a forum strategy to the contest, so you can take a look at that at your leisure. But this is another area that we want to encourage a lot of interaction amongst the community members, both the GitLab team members and people from the wider community. So that's about it. I mean, hopefully a lot of you will join us tomorrow on the 23rd for the Community Relations Group conversations, and we look forward to your questions and feedback. Thanks, and have a good day.